Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Sorry, hold on 1 second, please. This morning's learning is sponsored by Rochelle Diamond and family in memory of Chaim Diamond, Chaim ben Harav Avram Mordechai Zichrono Livracha. We thank the Diamond family very much. Okay, chapter 23, verse 5. It says in the pasuk, Ki sirech amor sona'acha rovetz tachas masa'o. When you see the donkey of a person who you hate buckling under its burden, probably doesn't happen much today. Not that we don't have people who we resent, but the people who we resent generally don't have donkeys. Normally the way this pasuk is read is it's being read in a questioning way. Will you stop from helping the person? Azov, ta'azov, imo. Help along with the person. And of course, putting aside my joke for a second, presumably this is a mitzvah for all kinds of circumstances, whether it's the exact mitzvah, the spirit of the mitzvah certainly is relevant. There are certain times where we'll see someone, presumably this is even greater mitzvah, we'll see someone having a very difficult time carrying, they're taking too much from the grocery store to their car at the same time, and they're having such a difficult time, to run up and help them. You could imagine different circumstances where the spirit of the mitzvah is certainly still in play. There's a kliyakar on this pasuk. Kliyakar on pasuk hey v'chad al tome azov lo azov ta'azov imo. Help along with the person. Lo marlach. This teaches you. This is a very famous idea. Dafka sherotze lios imach b'malachto. It doesn't say help him. It says help with him. The mitzvah to help the person is if they are going to work at it also. And they're trying to help their animal as well. That's when you have the mitzvah to help out. Im yoshev lo v'omer, but you can imagine the situation, a person is having difficulty with their animal and you come running over, you say, oy vey, and you say to yourself, wow, this is like what God was talking about. This is what I'm supposed to do. And you rush over to do it. And all of a sudden you notice the person is sitting on the side, relaxing. And you say, what's going on? He says, well, you have a mitzvah to help. So I'm going to let you do your thing. Alkain Omar v'chad al tomei azov lo ki milas lo ein b'mashma uso imo ki muter lach lachadom lazov lo k'she'ein rotz lios imach b'malachto. It's very interesting. So the way if you remember, there were those three words that I said normally are read as a rhetorical question. V'chad al tomei azov lo, will you stop from helping him? The kliyakar says no. It's a statement, because lo here connotes not with him, but just while he's doing his, he's sitting off on the side. So it says, v'chad al tamei azov lo, you can refrain from helping him if it's an issue of helping like towards him as opposed to helping with him. But if he's working too and it's helping with him, then you have to help him. And now the kliyakar says, mikan shuva al mikzas aniyim b'nei ameinu hamatilim es atzmam al hatzibur ve'enam rotzim lasos b'shum malacha. The kliyakar says this lesson is applicable to other things, and he gives the example involving tzedakah, that you have a situation where a person comes to the community and says, listen, I need money for such and such a thing. You guys have a mitzvah to help me. You let me know when you've collected it. And you ask him, well, what are you doing, what are you doing for your own revenue? What are you doing on your own? He says, no, I'm not interested. You guys are going to help me. So the kliyakar says it's a similar thing. They have sometimes, heaven forbid, people are in a position where they don't have the ability to work. Heaven forbid a person sustains some injury and they're not able to do work anymore, heaven forbid, or that they don't have the tools, whatever it is. But they have the ability to work. And they're just sitting off on the side because they figure you'll take care of them. And then if the community doesn't sufficiently support them, they get very upset. Tazov imo. Hakem takim imo. The Kli Yakar says what we see from this pasuk, and it's not the only pasuk like this in the Torah, but what we see is that when it comes to helping a person, we help a person if it's with the person. If they're doing their part and they can't do it on their own, then we have an absolute mitzvah from the Torah as individuals, as community, to jump right on in. But if they're not working themselves, if they're not doing whatever they can, then if they don't care enough, why should we care? The poor person has to do everything they can. And if after they've done everything they can, they still can't meet the needs, then everyone among the Jewish people has this mitzvah to help out. And we certainly have to help even up to 100 times. There's something learned from this. The Gemara learns out, azov ta'azov, it's double language of helping. So the idea is we have to keep on trying. If the person is working at it, we have to do everything we can to help them make it work. But if they're not working at it, we can wish them a nice day. So it's an important concept. Okay, verse 7, very famous phrase to begin the verse. Midvar sheker tirchak. Distance yourself from words of falsehood. Now, a lot is made of this phrase. Obviously, the Torah is doing more than saying don't lie. The Torah is saying distance yourself from it, which is clearly a great, great emphasis. But it's just an interesting thing to think about for a moment. What does it mean to distance myself from falsehood? Notice the implication is there's something that I would have thought was okay. If the Torah would have just said, don't lie, there's something that I would have thought was all right. And now the Torah comes along and says, it's not just don't lie, stay far away from it. Stay far away from it. Oh, then I won't do X. What is X exactly? So the way the pasuk is normally understood is it's not that there's more being prohibited, it's that we really have to appreciate how slippery the slope is, and we have to be very cautious about it being anywhere near falsehood. That's the way the pasuk is normally understood. It's a very interesting sforno over here. And before we see the sforno, I should just note, if you glance at verse 6 and the rest of verse 7, these verses are all about judicial things, right? In other words, if I were to ask you, if I walked up to you on the street after you helped someone with their donkey, and then you were walking away, and I walked up to you on the street and said, quick, what's the context in the Torah when the Torah talks about make sure not to be false about things, make sure not to speak in a false manner? So my guess is most people would say, I don't know, it's either its own pasuk or it's about how we treat other people. I think that's what most people would guess. It must be about how we treat other people in general. The context of this pasuk has to do with how courts operate. So thinking of that, Sforno says a really interesting thing. Sforno on pasuk Zayin. Midvar sheker tirchak mikol davar sheyuchal l'savev sheker. Stay away from anything that can cause falsehood. What does that mean? Kam Ramzal, he cites a famous Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Havi zohir bidvarecha. The Mishnah says, be careful about what you say. Shema mitocham yilmadu l'shaker. Maybe people will take your words and from your words learn to lie. This cautionary statement is in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, telling judges you have to be careful how you speak to the litigants, because if you ask leading questions and the like, they might intuit what the right answer is, maybe not the true answer, but what the most successful answer will be. And you're really creating a framework in which you're unintentionally, of course, but inviting them to be dishonest. So the Sforno says that's what it means in the pasuk when it says distance yourself from falsehood. Of course you shouldn't lie. That could have been accomplished by just saying don't lie. But what we're saying is speak and act in a way that will not encourage others to lie as well. An interesting thing to think about. On a practical level, we all have circumstances that sometimes, and this doesn't mean that we shouldn't confront people, sometimes we have to confront people, but we all have circumstances, I think, where we ask a person a question and it's really a tight spot that we're putting the person in, and it's very likely that they're going to lie in response to our question. I think we've all thought of had circumstances like that before. So the Sforno presumably would tell you that Midvar Sheker Tircha teaches that it's you have to, again, sometimes there's no alternative, but if there is an alternative, we have to try to not create a circumstance that a person feels compelled to lie or feels tempted to lie. Just an interesting thing to think about. Okay. Jumping ahead now to verse 25. Verse 25. This pasuk is talking about the Jewish people going into the land of Israel, and it's a theme that shows up various times in the Torah. The residents of the land of Israel, when the Jewish people come in, are going to be nations and people that are very involved in avodah zarah and idol worship and the like. And the previous pasuk, for example, said, "Don't bow down to their idols, and you should only destroy their idols. You shouldn't be serving their idols in any way, shape, or form." And now in verse 25, "V'avadatem eis Hashem Elokechem," you should serve Hashem your God. When you get into the land of Israel, serve Hashem your God. Uveirach eslach b'cha v'esmeimecha. And if you overcome this temptation of idol worship and you instead serve God, He will bless your bread and your water. Vasirosi machala mikirbecha. And I will remove illness from your midst. A grammatical point for a moment. Vavadatem, the first word in verse 25, you will serve, is in the plural form. You, in the plural form, should serve your God. But when it says He'll bless you, it's bless your singular bread. You, one person, He'll bless your bread. Your bread. You, one person, He'll bless he'll bless your water. So why is it that the service of God is in the plural and the reward for the service of God is in the singular? It's an interesting thing. Look at the Kli Yakar on pasuk Chaf Hey. V'avadatem eis Hashem Elokechem uveirach eslach b'cha. Hischil b'lashon rabim v'siyem b'lashon yachid. It begins in the plural and concludes in the singular. V'sheko Yisrael arevim zeh ba'ad zeh. Because we're all responsible for each other. V'lo yivarech Hashem lechem shekol yachid v'yachid ad asher yiyu ovdei Hashem rabim v'yavdu kol zera Yaakov ke'echad. Az yivarech lach Moshe kol echad v'yachid. It's a nice idea from the Kli Yakar. The Kli Yakar says, so just imagine, let's say the message is, you, Chaim Yankel, if you want God to bless your food and income, etc., you'll serve God. Okay? So Chaim Yankel is very inspired by that pasuk, and he goes home and he devotes himself to the service of God like never before. Someone comes and says, your neighbor could really use some inspiration. Chaim Yankel, you're doing great. Your neighbor could use some spiritual inspiration. Chaim Yankel says, I got enough on my plate. I'm just working on, got to look out for number one. Okay. So the Kli Yakar says the Torah is specifically teaching Chaim Yankel that's not the way to look at things. The only way that Chaim Yankel's bread will be blessed is not only if Chaim Yankel works hard to serve God, it's that if the collective Jewish people work hard to serve God, because we're all responsible for each other. So it's in the singular because God is saying that if the Jewish people as a whole are doing everything they should be doing, then each and every member of the Jewish people can expect blessing in their home. If everybody is doing the right thing. But that assurance only comes when everybody is doing the right thing. If I, as an individual, am doing the right thing, surely God will reward me in some way in this world, in the next world, whatever it is, for the good things that I do. But this idea that it's like, that take it to the bank, God will help if everyone's doing the right thing. That's only if that's in the plural, meaning everyone's interested in everyone else as well. So it's an interesting idea, I think. So what we discussed this morning, we discussed the Kli Yakar regarding helping those who are willing to work on the project as well. We discussed the novel shot from the Sforno regarding distancing yourself from falsehood, and we discussed this Kli Yakar regarding serving God in the plural and being rewarded in the singular.